I didn't mean for him to find me that night, but he did, and instead of walking away, I followed him, straight into a silence that screamed louder than any words. I thought I understood loyalty, boundaries, love, but that night rewrote everything. This isn't a story of right or wrong. It's a story of what happens when someone finally sees you. So, what would you have done? Leave a comment and hit subscribe if you're ready to hear the rest of A True Infidelity Story. What's the most frightening part? I'm not sure if it was a mistake or a choice I had been ready to make all along. The air that night was thick, heavy, and suffocating. The city lights blurred as I walked down the sidewalk, my heels clicking on the pavement, my body warm from a few too many drinks. I didn't mean to drink so much. I promised myself I'd only have 1 glass of wine, maybe 2. I told myself to be cautious. Promises lose their weight when you're feeling hollow. I had felt empty for a long time. The work party was meant to be a break, a chance to escape, even if just for a moment, from the cold, silent house I shared with my husband, a house that seemed more like a museum than a place to live. He hardly glanced my way, hardly said a word to me. I felt like I was just part of the background, something he had grown accustomed to but no longer saw. When my coworkers laughed at my jokes, leaned in closer, and their eyes lingered on me in ways my husband's never did, I allowed myself to savor the moment. Only for tonight, only for a brief moment. Every moment matters. As I stepped outside, I felt dizzy, caught between tipsy and drunk. My phone slipped from my grip while I was trying to call my husband. Kept ringing and ringing. No response. Absolutely. I let out a sigh, swaying a bit as my vision blurred. I had to make my way home. How can we do that? And then his voice came through, a familiar voice I had heard countless times. A voice that felt secure and known. Yet that night, something felt different. Are you all right? I turned, my eyes wide as I looked up at him. He stood there, half in shadow under the streetlight, his eyes holding a mystery I couldn't decipher. Worry? Fun? Anything else? Logan, my stepson. He was the last person I thought I'd run into that night. The one person I definitely shouldn't have called. Yet there he stood. In that moment, lost in my drunken haze, I sensed a change. I really should have said no. I should have asked him to go. I could have accomplished so much more. Instead, I allowed him to take my hand. I followed him to his car. As we cruised down the deserted streets, his voice gentle and his presence unwavering, a quiet voice within me warned, this is risky. I just didn't care. Before I share what happened next, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life confessions that uncover the deepest aspects of human emotions. This story is only beginning, so stay tuned. I'm Elena.
I'm 39.
A few years back, I would have said I had a good life. Steady marriage, cozy home, and a routine that felt right. Somewhere along the journey, that life transformed into something different, turned isolating. Loneliness creeps in slowly, catching you off guard. It sneaks in gradually, filling the voids of unspoken words and missed connections. Suddenly, you wake up one day and feel like a stranger in your own home. That's what my marriage turned into. A place where I was present, yet unnoticed. David, my husband, was the one who provided for us. A man who toiled endlessly, covered the expenses, and thought that was sufficient. Perhaps it was for him. What about me? No, it wasn't. I can't recall the last time he gazed at me like a man who truly desires a woman. The last time he reached for me freely. The last time he genuinely asked me how I was and truly paid attention to my response. Some nights, I lay in bed next to him, gazing at the ceiling, pondering how we ended up here. How two people who once couldn't get enough of each other became strangers who hardly exchanged words. I convinced myself it was just normal. This is simply how marriage unfolds. Love evolves. That enthusiasm diminishes. Then came Logan. My stepson, Logan. He had outgrown his boyhood. A 26-year-old man, strong, confident, and kind. He noticed me unlike his father. It began as a small idea. Easy chats in the kitchen while David was still at work. A joke here, a shared look there. He had a knack for making me laugh, even on my toughest days. He paid attention while I talked, truly heard. I began to anticipate those moments with him more than I realized. I convinced myself it was harmless. I was simply thankful for the attention. Yet, I understood the truth within me. Logan had always been a constant in my life, ever since his teenage years. Over the years, our relationship changed. We connected in ways that no one else could. Perhaps that closeness was evolving into something more. Our home was spacious, stunning, yet chilly, a place where silence filled the air, and David's absence weighed more than his presence ever did. In that emptiness, I sought warmth wherever it could be found. That night, when Logan arrived, I discovered it within him. That night began just like any other. That's what I kept telling myself. It was my company's annual work party, an event I usually wouldn't have been too interested in. This year, I really needed a reason to leave the house, to get dressed up, to experience emotion. I took my time getting ready, putting on a sleek black dress that fit perfectly. I gazed into the mirror, tilting my head, looking for the woman I once was, the woman who once felt beautiful and wanted. I pictured David behind me, his hands on my waist, softly whispering in my ear. As I entered the bedroom, he hardly looked away from his laptop. I told him not to wait up, testing his response, eager for a reaction, a spark of envy, just a quick reminder to be careful. He just nodded, his gaze fixed on the screen. In an instant, I found my answer. The party took place at a chic downtown bar, softly lit with mellow music in the air. Colleagues shared laughter, conversations flowed, and glasses clinked in celebration. It was vibrant and inviting, all the things my home lacked. I began with a glass of wine. One turned into two. What was once two is now three. With each sip, I felt a weight lift, as if I was shedding an old skin, leaving behind the tired, unseen, and unwanted parts of myself. Jason, a coworker, leaned in as we chatted. He stared at my lips for a moment too long. He laughed effortlessly. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the spotlight. His gaze swept over me in a way that Mark's no longer did. It felt good to know that, at least for tonight, I was wanted. I was aware. I understood the path the night could take if I allowed it to unfold. Yet, beneath it all, I sensed something more. Jason wasn't my choice. The truth struck me more powerfully than the drink. The room began to spin, and I felt a sudden wave of warmth wash over me. I craved fresh air. I had to head home. I struggled to grab my phone, my fingers awkward as I called Mark's. The phone rang, and it rang, and it rang. No response. Absolutely. I let out a sigh, my eyes fluttering as the dizziness hit me. I can grab a cab. Or perhaps I could just linger a bit more, savor this moment a bit longer before returning to that cold, empty house. Just as I was about to make a choice, my phone buzzed in my hand. A note. "Hey Logan, you good?" I paused. The answer was meant to be straightforward. My hands were typing before my mind even realized it. Myself. I overindulged. Heading home, I was surprised by how fast he replied. "Hey Logan, where are you at?" I looked around while typing the address. "Logan, I'm heading over now." I gazed at the screen, my heart racing, not from relief, but from a different feeling altogether. Moments later, I stepped outside, the cool night air nipping at my warm skin. The city lights swirled around me. Everything feels far away, almost dreamlike. That's when I spotted him. He stood by his car, hands in his pockets, staring right at me. He appeared changed, not like the stepson who used to dash through our home, tracking muddy footprints everywhere. Negative. Tonight, he appeared truly masculine. A man who rushed to my aid without a second thought. A man with a gaze that was impossible to decipher. I took a deep breath. He stepped away from the car and walked toward me. "Take a look." He paused, his gaze sweeping over me, causing my breath to hitch. "Stunning." I chuckled softly, feeling a bit anxious. I might seem a bit out of it. He grinned. "Absolutely." There was a weight in the air between us, something deep and unvoiced. I felt too dizzy to understand it. He reached out, his hands soft as they helped me find my balance. His fingers brushed my skin, sending a thrilling shiver up my spine. It was just a gentle touch, pure and innocent, yet it lacked a sense of innocence. I sensed it as he guided me to the car, his hold lasting a moment too long. I sensed it when he helped me into the seat, his touch lingering just a moment longer than necessary. I felt it when our eyes locked for a moment too long before he closed the door. When he settled into the driver's seat, the atmosphere around us buzzed with a thrilling tension. I should have said something. I should have broken the tension with a joke, changed the subject, something. But I just sat there, watching him, feeling something I shouldn't feel. And as the car pulled away from the curb, one thought whispered through my drunken haze. This poses a risk. I really don't care. The ride home was quiet, but it wasn't the familiar, comfortable silence I shared with Logan. No, this silence was heavy, pressing against my chest with each passing second. An invisible thread pulled tight between us, an unspoken energy humming in the air. I convinced myself it was all in my head. He was simply being nice. I was simply intoxicated. But I wasn't so drunk that I couldn't sense it. I glanced over at him while he drove. His hands tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles flexing just a bit. His jaw tightened, eyes locked straight ahead. But every so often, his eyes flickered toward me, quick glances, barely noticeable. Except I noticed. His gaze was intense. A son shouldn't look at his stepmother that way. A sudden wave of guilt hit me, almost making me feel sick. This was Logan, the boy I had nurtured, the son of the man I had promised to love. Why did having him here feel so amazing? Why did his presence calm something within me? Something that had been hurting, longing, and craving recognition. I gripped my hands in my lap, my breath shaky. This was not right, but if it was so wrong, why did my body let me down? Why did I feel a flush rise in my neck when he reached for the gear shift? His fingers so near my knee that I could sense the heat from his skin. Why did my stomach knot when he exhaled sharply, gripping the wheel tighter, as if he was battling something? 2. I had to escape this car. Quick. When we pulled into the driveway, the house was dark. No sign of David. Absolutely. I swallowed hard as Logan turned off the engine. I grabbed the door handle, desperate to break free from this unbearable tension. Just as I was about to open it, his voice held me back. Are you all right? His voice was soft, calm, and unwavering. Too predictable. I paused before giving a nod. Absolutely. Only excessive wine. He stayed still. Neither did I. The air inside the car was thick-charged. A heavy, stifling warmth. Logan let out a breath, raking his fingers through his hair. Let's go. Come on in. I regret letting him help me. I could have just laughed it off, brushed him aside, and gone inside by myself. When he opened my door and reached for me, I didn't hold back. As I stepped out, his arm wrapped around my waist, strong yet gentle. His strength was palpable, a silent shield of protectiveness. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to fully embrace it. When was the last time someone truly looked after me? When was the last time someone looked at me like that?
Halt.
I shut my eyes tight, pushing the thought aside. It was simply the booze speaking, only the fatigue. I just wanted to sleep, to wake up in the morning and erase this whole night from my memory. As he walked me to the front door, his warmth next to me, I felt his gaze on me. I understood. I always knew it inside. He felt it as well. I woke up with a dull ache behind my eyes, the heaviness of last night clinging to me like a thick blanket. The room was dim, with early morning light sneaking through the curtains. I felt a dryness in my mouth, a heaviness in my body, but above all, an unsettling feeling lingered, not due to the wine but because of him, due to the sensation of his hands on my waist. It was the way he had glanced at me in the car, because of that part of me, deep down, hidden and shameful, that had wanted him to. I sighed and ran my hand through my hair, trying to clear the fog in my mind. I craved coffee, a brisk shower, a reason to let it all go. I pulled myself out of bed and walked down the hallway, anticipating an empty kitchen, anticipating quiet. Yet he was present. Logan filled a mug with coffee at the counter. He turned to look at me, and for a moment we locked eyes. A flicker crossed his face, an unreadable hint of emotion. "Morning," he said, his voice gentler than normal. I gulped. "Good morning." He turned and offered the cup. "I brewed you some coffee. I thought this could be useful for you." I paused before grabbing it, my fingers lingering on his for just a heartbeat too long. It was a tiny detail, A simple touch. A basic, empty touch. Yet the air changed. Or perhaps it had already changed, and I was only just realizing it. I sipped slowly, seeking comfort in the bitterness. Thank you. You didn't need to do that. Logan stood by the counter, arms crossed. Are you doing all right? I nodded, but I sensed his doubt. Perhaps he was justified in not doing so. As I stood there, his gaze on me made me feel delicate, like I was something precious, and my body felt foreign to me, felt alive, filled me with fear. In the days that followed, a shift occurred between us. It didn't happen all at once, like a light turning on. It was deliberate, like a fire quietly spreading below the surface before the smoke is ever seen. It began with little details, a brief David, a lasting look. His slight lean-in during our conversation felt a bit too close. One night, we sat in the living room, the TV on with a mindless show that neither of us paid attention to. David was at work again, staying late as always. The house was silent, just too silent. Logan let out a breath, raking his fingers through his hair. I don't understand, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. I looked at him. What do you mean? He glanced my way, his eyes deep and mysterious. How he fails to notice you, I gasped. I let out a laugh, shaking my head. Logan, seriously. His voice had taken on a sharper tone, laced with a deeper intensity. He's got you. He treats you like you don't exist. I started to speak, then fell silent. What can I really say? I've been wondering about that for years. I spent countless nights questioning why my husband, his father, no longer loved me like he once did. I should have ended the conversation right then. I should have stood up, walked away, laughed it off, anything really. I didn't do that. For the first time in ages, someone voiced what I had been too scared to acknowledge. I focused on Logan, truly focused on him. You could see his jaw tighten and the frustration burning in his eyes. And something within me broke. At times, I quietly thought that I could vanish, and he wouldn't even realize. Logan's face fell. That's unacceptable. I took a deep breath. It's a union. No, he said, his voice steady. No, it's not. The silence hung between us, dense and palpable. That was the moment I realized. This thought had moved from the shadows of my mind to the forefront, and it was no longer just a fleeting danger. This was genuine. We couldn't undo this, no matter what. It began with subtle gestures. His fingers brushed against mine as he passed me a glass of water. His hand brushed against the small of my back, lingering just a moment too long as he walked by in the kitchen. I convinced myself it was insignificant. I convinced myself it was all in my head. But I wasn't. He wasn't either. He just wasn't backing off. I wasn't letting go. The silence between us was becoming impossible to ignore. One evening, we settled on the couch to watch a movie. David texted earlier. He's working late, so don't wait up. Absolutely. The living room was softly lit, with the TV's flickering glow illuminating the space. Logan sat next to me, near yet not overwhelming. Initially, no. Then suddenly his knee touched mine. I had the option to leave. No, I didn't. I sensed his eyes on me, but I focused on the screen, acting like I didn't see him. His hand moved, fingers brushing against mine. A chill raced through me, yet I remained still. I could hear my heartbeat thumping in my ears, my breath catching in my chest. This was the moment, the boundary, the turning point that altered everything. He tilted his head, and I felt the warmth of his breath on my skin. If I gaze at him now, if I catch his eyes, I was certain I wouldn't quit. I was sure he wouldn't, too. Next, a car door slams shut outside. I flinched, my heart pounding in my chest. Logan tensed next to me, his hand retracting so quickly it felt like it had never touched me at all. Someone was coming to the door. David. Reality hit me hard, overwhelming and heavy. What was I thinking? What were we thinking? The door swung open. I pushed myself to breathe, to sit up, to appear normal. When David walked in and tossed his keys onto the table without a glance in my direction, something felt off. I felt like I was on the brink of something risky. What's the worst part? I couldn't decide whether to hold back or leap forward. I hardly got any sleep that night. After David came home, showered, and got into bed next to me without saying a word, My body still buzzed with the intensity of what nearly occurred. Logan's hand brushed lightly. His breath was warm. The pull I felt was powerful and unmistakable. I lay there, gazing at the ceiling, my heart racing. This had become something more than loneliness. This was more than a fleeting dream. This was genuine. It was truly frightening. Once more, David disappeared the following night. Another meeting that runs late. Just another excuse. Another night spent alone in a house that no longer felt like home. I sat at the kitchen table, stirring my tea absent-mindedly, hoping to lift the heaviness in my chest. And then, hello. I gazed upward. Logan leaned against the doorway, his gaze fixed on me. His face was a mystery, but his eyes held a depth I couldn't quite identify. I took a deep breath. Hello. He moved ahead, slowly and purposefully. Are you all right? Here we go with that question again. The very question he posed in the car that night. The very one I had deceived you about. This time, I couldn't muster the strength to deceive. I shook my head in disbelief. Negative. Logan let out a sharp breath, raking his fingers through his hair. Sure, he said quietly. I figured as much. The silence hung between us, dense and palpable. Then he made his move, slow, calm and composed. Take a calm, deliberate step closer to me. I could have stopped him. I should have stood up, walked out, or done something else. I didn't do that. I always knew this moment was inevitable. I felt it the moment his fingers touched mine on the couch. His support was palpable as he assisted me out of the car. His gaze made me feel like I was truly worth noticing. My breath caught as he approached, so near that I could feel his warmth. Just say it, he whispered. If you say stop, I will. I spoke up. No results appeared. His hand rose, fingers gliding softly along the curve of my jaw. I trembled at his touch, my body ignoring all reason. And then he kissed me, gentle. Be cautious. Unsure, as if he were gauging the situation. Felt like he was offering me a way out. I chose not to. For the first time in years, I truly felt. I felt desired. I felt vibrant. But the moment his lips pressed firmly against mine, reality hit hard. I flinched, my breath quickening, my heart pounding in my ears. Logan stood still, his gaze locked onto mine. I can't, I said softly. I really shouldn't. His jaw tightened. So, why did you kiss me back? I took a quick breath. It was simply the truth. Kissed him back. I allowed this to occur. This was what I wanted. That scared me more than anything else. I shook my head, my voice just a whisper. This isn't right. Logan's face fell. What's the reason? The question caught me off guard. What makes it wrong? He insisted, his voice steady and strong. Is it because of him? My stomach churned. Logan, go ahead, I'm listening. He moved in, his body tight with tension. Explain why it's not right when he shows no concern for you, when he treats you like an object. Each night you lay down, feeling a sense of solitude. My eyes filled with tears. This isn't right. His expression relaxed. His voice turned to a soft whisper. Perhaps not. Does it feel off? I started to speak, but paused. I had no answer. When he kissed me, when his hands brushed against me, when he looked at me as if I mattered, everything felt perfectly right. That was the most perilous part of it all. He let out a sharp breath, running a hand through his hair. He was clearly frustrated, but there was more beneath the surface. Something genuine. Something genuine. He paused briefly before speaking again. I've been pondering this for quite a while. I tensed up. Logan. He nodded in disagreement. No, I have to say it. His voice was strong and steady. I see you as more than just my stepmother. My heart raced. I never have, he admitted, his voice just above a whisper. Nope. I looked at him, my logical thoughts falling apart. You deserve better than what he offers you, Logan said, his voice filled with deep feeling. You deserve to be desired, to feel love, and if he can't see that, he caught himself, taking a sharp breath. Then, gently, like a whispered secret, I notice you, I gasped. In that instant, I realized he was referring to more than just the present. He spoke about each moment. I always felt unseen. I often felt unloved, unwanted, and invisible. He had been watching me the whole time, That was the most thrilling and frightening realization of all. I felt it. The decision hangs in the air between us. Step away. Forget this ever took place. Continue existing in the emptiness of a marriage that has long since ended. Or surrender. I want to feel something again. Allow myself to be desired. I understood the right choice clearly. I was aware. When Logan reached for me again, his fingers brushing against mine, I stayed right where I was. I steered clear of him. For the next few days, I did everything I could to act like it never happened. I went through the routine. Woke up, made breakfast, did the laundry. Playing the part of a devoted wife in a marriage that had already fallen apart. I looked away. Conversations were kept short. If Logan was there, I was gone. I could sense him, all around, observing me, anticipating. What's the worst part? I craved attention. I craved to be desired. He was aware of it. I guess I thought he would feel some regret. Would he feel the same fear I did? He wasn't there. He was definitely bolder now. I saw him staring at me when he thought I was oblivious. His dark eyes, unreadable, focused on my lips, my hands, my bare legs peeking from under my dress. At dinner, he sat opposite me, his intense gaze piercing through me like a quiet challenge. At night, I sensed him just beyond the wall. When David was home, a distracted kiss on my cheek or a half-hearted goodnight before he turned away in bed spoke volumes to Logan. He realized the emptiness of it all. I despised him for that. The more he saw me, the more I understood how blind I had been to everything else. One evening, I discovered him in the kitchen. I intended to walk by him, quickly grab a glass of water, and go, but he stopped me. Are you going to continue the act? His voice was soft and deliberate. I stood still. He rested against the counter, arms folded. I just can't. I took a deep breath, holding onto the counter for support. Logan, this isn't going to work. Why not give it a try? I gave him a glance. You understand the reason. His eyes stayed steady. You didn't let that hold you back before. My face flushed with heat. That was an error. Logan clenched his jaw. He moved closer, each step measured, narrowing the gap between us. So why are you trembling? I despised him for that as well. For understanding me so deeply, for inspiring my desires. I started to walk away, but just as I moved, his fingers grazed my wrist. A simple touch, yet it sufficed. It's enough to make me catch my breath. It brought back memories of how he had kissed me, the way I kissed him in return. I pulled my hand back sharply. It's done. He stayed still, remained silent. Just look at me with those sharp, knowing eyes. For the first time, I couldn't tell who was really in control. It began as a small idea. Small details. David's gaze held on me for a moment too long. He would come home and pause, as if he were expecting something. Casual, offhand comments. You've been a bit silent recently. You seem changed. What's happening? I convinced myself it was all in my head. It was simply the guilt. Then, one night, he said something that sent chills down my spine. Logan's been eyeing you in a new way. I gasped. What is going on? David kept his eyes on his plate. I'm not sure. It's strange. He looks out for you. He gave a brief, dry laugh. Looks like he believes I'm not fulfilling my responsibilities. The food became ash on my tongue. I put on a smile and tried to keep my voice calm. That's absurd. David just shrugged. Absolutely. Most likely. He said it with uncertainty, as if he were observing. I stepped away from the table and shut myself in the bathroom, my heart racing in my ears. Was he aware? Did he spot something? Was it just my imagination? I leaned on the cool porcelain sink, gazing at my reflection. This must come to a close, before I lost control, before I had nothing left. As I shut my eyes, he filled my thoughts. Logan, his caress, his lips, his voice brushed softly against my skin. I notice you. I felt it in my bones. This wasn't finished yet, nowhere near. I was gasping for air. In that bathroom, I gripped the sink, my pulse pounding in my chest. I felt overwhelmed. David was aware. Or perhaps he didn't. Perhaps it was simply paranoia. Perhaps I was just dreaming about how his gaze held on. His voice carried a hint of suspicion. What if I wasn't? What if he witnessed something? What if everything was about to fall apart around me? I shut my eyes tight, my thoughts swirling. I need to tell him. I need to come clean, remove the bandage quickly and put an end to this chaos before it escalates. Before I had nothing left. Before I found myself lost. Yet the words eluded me. The truth was, I was reluctant to release it. I wanted to remember how Logan looked at me. I didn't want to forget how he made me feel. That was the most brutal and bleak aspect of it all. I was never the kind of woman to offer excuses. I devoted years to being the perfect wife. The devoted partner. The wife who stayed up for her husband during his long office nights. Who overlooked his distant gaze. Who told herself that loneliness was just a temporary feeling. It was never just a phase. It had been my life for years. What's next? I found myself on the brink of an unexpected possibility. A soft, sneaky voice in my mind murmured, if he had truly loved me, would this have ever occurred? Did I long for the touch of another man? Did I really fall so easily for something I knew was wrong? Would I have returned Logan's kiss? I had no idea. Perhaps I preferred to remain unaware. The moment I acknowledged that David's neglect, coldness, and indifference had led me to seek comfort in another man's embrace. I will no longer play the villain in my own story. Perhaps I do deserve it. This might be on me. Perhaps it wasn't. Both answers terrified me equally. I urged myself to stop dwelling on him. I convinced myself that the events of that night, the kiss, the whispered secrets, the spark his touch reignited within me, were simply a mistake, a brief lapse in strength, an error in judgment. Yet, I found myself gazing at my phone, fingers poised above his name. As I walked by his room, my breath caught, curious if he was awake. I wonder if he's thinking about me as well. If he still desired me like I still desired him. What's the worst part? A hidden, shameful part of me felt no regret. Not how I should be doing it. Not in a way that would make me quit. They say time heals everything, but they never said how long that healing takes or what it costs along the way. I used to believe mistakes could be buried beneath silence and routine, but some choices echo far beyond the moment they're made. Now I live with the quiet, with the truth, with the realization that longing doesn't always justify the paths we take. If you're watching this and thinking, that could never be me, trust me, I once said the same. Tell me, have you ever crossed a line so slowly you didn't realize until it was far behind you? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your story, your thoughts, your truths, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one. Raw, real, and unforgettable. This is more than just a true infidelity story. This is a reflection of life's deepest turns, the ones we never saw coming.